Hey everyone, welcome to Ajay and Nathan Discuss Movies, a show in which we discuss movies, both old and new. Today we got a new movie that we're discussing right now, today, that recently dropped on Netflix. What is that movie, Nathan?
That is Woman of the Hour, starring and directed by Anna Kendrick.
And what is this movie about, Nathan?
Woman of the Hour tells the true story of a 70s dating show sometime in 78, I believe. Classic dating show. Woman goes on. There are 3 contestants all vying for her affection, but the twist of this is that one of them was a prolific serial killer in the 70s who had a near decade-long run before he was captured, and the movie follows the aspiring actress played by Anna Kendrick, who is on the dating show, and she is now in the midst of this prolific serial killer who seeks to win this show.
Yeah, and how did you feel about this movie, Nathan?
I thought Woman of the Hour was very good. I thought it was a good movie. I thought Anna Kendrick's direction is kind of staggeringly really good. I think we've had like kind of a good year of actors turned directors. And yeah, I think Anna Kendrick she's got a lot of talent behind the camera. I think the movie, it's a very interesting story, and it has some very interesting twists and turns, some really great performances. If I were to complain, I'd say the pacing just feels a little off. I think all the beats in the story work. I just think they aren't presented in a kind of cohesive way. The movie feels fragmented because we're jumping between this game show, the dating show, and the serial killers, like some of the murders that he has committed and kind of like what he's been doing while on the run. It jumps back and forth between those two things, and I just feel it could have been edited in a better way to give those two stories more cohesion.
Yeah, so I agree with everything you said. And actually, it's like 3 stories, because the sequencing events is definitely an issue with this movie. That's my biggest gripe with the movie.
Yeah.
Is the sequencing events and the editing of it. Because there are 3 stories that and we'll get into it right now. There are 3 stories in which Anna Kendrick that the serial killer is involved in. Mm-hmm. One is with the young girl that he takes out driving to the road on a vacation. The other is with Anna Kendrick and his overall relationship with Anna Kendrick on the show. And there's also that story in which the woman who's seated for that taping talks to the officers. So there's 3 stories, and obviously we're getting to spoilers right now. I'm not really.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's too. We're not too spoilery.
We're not too spoilery
yet, because it is a true story.
But those 3 stories definitely led to a film that was a little bit messy. Yeah. And that's not to say that the film was bad, because I do love the performances. I thought Anna Kendrick was great. The serial killer who plays in it, and it was pretty good as well.
Oh, yeah, no, I really liked his performance.
Pete Holmes did well. I like Pete Holmes in this movie. I thought
he is in this movie. Yeah. I felt like a Pete Holmes jump scare. Yeah. I'm like, who's this guy she's talking to? Oh my God, it's Pete Holmes.
He was keeping her crispy. That's to all my You Made It Weird listeners out there. You made it weird. You made it weird. So I did make it weird. But overall, Pete Holmes did well in this movie. The serial killer did well in this movie. Anna Kendrick, also, she's the director. She's obviously going to have a great role in this movie. Yeah. I did feel as if the serial killer was not that believable. Because I think if you're going to be a serial killer, and if you're going to be this suave guy on a dating show, you got to be a little hotter. You gotta be a little hotter.
I think he was attractive for the 70s.
For the 70s.
For the 70s. By 70s standards, that's a good-looking man.
Is he?
He looks gross, and that's the entire 70s is just gross.
He looks like a guy who spent too much time playing, like, Star Wars fan fiction in his mind. Like, he looks like a guy that was, like, that individual.
I mean, serial killers love Star Wars.
Do they?
Jeffrey Dahmer showed his victims Return of the Jedi.
Did he?
Which is the worst crime he committed.
The worst crime he committed was showing Ewoks. We're getting too ahead of ourselves. But But overall, there were issues with the film. I still enjoyed it. It's an
Yeah.
hour and 35 minutes, so if you have
a
90
breezy
minutes
watch,
to
yeah.
spare, I do feel as if like the ending of it was I wouldn't say it's rushed, but it does leave you being like, oh, so that happened.
It's sudden, which I
Yeah.
don't hate, and then it goes into like the text bubble of like kind of what happened after the historical facts. He was arrested, released on bail, murdered 2 women while out on bail, re-arrested, and then he was incarcerated for, what was it, 30 years? I don't have all the facts straight. Reincarcerated when he was had a hearing for acquittal. The girl at the end of the film came back to give her testimony, and it basically sealed his fate, and he died in prison. Not spoilers, because this is all just fact of what happened in real life. I feel like the movie...
It's based off of the real-life serial killer, Ronnie Alcala.
Yeah, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
I feel like a kind of a cooler way to ending outside of just like a quick like cut to black and then text would have been, I don't know, maybe seeing that final court hearing and seeing like that character from the movie come back to seal this guy's fate and put him in the hole where he belongs.
Maybe this would have gone over budget, but if there was like a montage of the events that were happening aligned with the text, it may have been a little bit better. Instead of just like a oneer on like a valley and just text peering up being like, this is what happened. I feel like it would have been better if it was just like a montage of events that lined up with the text.
Maybe.
Maybe I'm nitpicking.
I could go either way with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, I thought the film was pretty fun, enjoyable. I mean, not fun.
It's not fun. Not exactly a fun time,
Yeah.
but
It's a
but
great
a
time.
very like well-made thriller. I really loved Anna Kendrick's direction because she really knew like how to build
Suspense.
that tension. Yeah, no, a lot of scenes that just were so slow and they lingered on just like the rising tension. Every scene.
And there was a lot of tension, despite the fact that there was no actual murder happening. Like, without any sort of, like, physical... Like, obviously, he, like, strangles a woman and all that. But, like, in terms of, like, a gun or in terms of, like, that kind of, like, graphic scene...
It's not graphic, which I
none
really
whatsoever.
like. It cuts away once he starts attacking people. It cuts away pretty quickly, like back to the dating show, and I really like that. Like, give the audience just like a hint of what is about to happen, and then cut away. I think it was
that's my favorite type of horror shot. It's like
Yeah.
when something bad's about to happen, but they cut away, and then after a few seconds later, it goes back to that scene.
and
That's the
we just
best.
see like the aftermath.
Yeah. There's that one particular scene in this movie where Anna Kendrick's walking to her car.
Oh my god,
That was the most suspenseful
so
thing
good.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, she allows these shots to just linger and just like keep you on the edge of your seat. I love, just the way she shoots it from like her perspective, like just the rising tension, just like because like every dude she interacts with is like kind of like a piece of
They're sleazy, they're predatory.
Because it's the 70s and it's like misogynism's big right now. And so like every dude is kind of like just like an asshole. And so it just like lingers on these guys that are just like kind of the worst. I love because she's an actress and she's like doing an audition and we just kind of like have these like two like casting dudes who are just like, yeah, I'd cast her, but she's kind of a so I don't really like her, and then like it
She's
cuts
not
to
taking her top off. It's
Yeah.
crazy in here. Dude.
and then it cuts to her and she's just standing there, just like. So do you guys want me to read it again? Or they're just like, no, you were perfect. You'll hear from us in a week.
Yeah. 70s, man.
The 70s.
Or you could mention Polanski without all of the things attached to him, you know? Right? That they do in this movie, by the way. They do that in the movie.
Yeah, no, the literal serial killer mentions just like, I love Roman Polanski. It's like, how'd we not catch you sooner? It was all there.
Yeah.
We just couldn't see it.
Yeah. But overall, I thought this was very ambitious for her, for Anna Kendrick to do, especially to tackle like a difficult subject matter of this nature, because it could easily fall flat on its face.
Yeah.
But she was able to hold you in because of the suspense. And despite issues with the editing, I still had an enjoyable time watching this movie.
Yeah, no, she handled the material very well, because it can easily become, especially stories about like true crime and like serial killers, it become too like sensational and like we mentioned like the Jeffrey Dahmer show that Netflix that is just disgusting exploitation. But this is the classier version. This is the version that like knows how to handle the subject matter in a way that is both suspenseful, intense, and entertaining, but also like respectful to the facts at hand.
Yeah, or the Jeffrey Dahmer show kind of felt like it was glorifying his crimes or his behavior. This doesn't have that vibe at all. And it's a good redemption for Netflix because, you know,
it's fun.
The same.
They'll ruin it with like the next murder show.
Yeah, Jake Paul versus Tyson 2. They'll ruin it. You know,
they already
they'll
did.
ruin that. Back to the film.
Let's get into spoilers now.
All right, spoilers.
I guess. Yeah, there's three kind of plot lines going on. There is the actual dating show, which we keep cutting back to. That's kind of like our anchor. We are constantly cutting to Rodney Alcala and like his various crimes. We spend some time with some of his victims just to establish that like these are real people who were hurt by this horrible monster. And then like I like these two things bouncing back and forth between like what he's been doing. He like picks up this like runaway girl and is like, oh, I'm gonna submit you to a modeling competition. And that's another thing we constantly cut back to, because that's eventually the person who gets him finally arrested for his crimes. And I like these two things jumping back and forth because it adds a lot of dramatic irony and tension to the film, because we know, the audience, that this is a dangerous, psychotic freak. And like we constantly cut back to the dating show where he's being very charming and suave and saying all the right things, and we're like, oh my God, Anna Kendrick, no, don't fall for this monster. I think
it felt very reminiscent to Patrick Bateman, not to chime in but right now, but it felt like Patrick Bateman when he was like talking about how we got to help out the people of Sri Lanka and all that.
Oh,
yeah, it felt very much like that, like, but more like sort of overly sort of sympathetic lens.
We have to promote general social concern, unless materialism in young people.
Yeah, no. And then I think the weirder addition to the movie is like having someone from the audience be like, oh my God, I know that guy. He's a serial murderer and killed my friend. And then we spend a lot of time with a character who really has like, outside of the wanting to catch the serial killer, no connection to like...
You could have easily taken that story out.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be there. I think it just kind of like takes up a lot of time. If I were to take a guess, I'd say maybe it was like a note, like we need like something else happening. We need someone who's trying to catch the serial killer during the movie, but because it's the 70s and she's a woman, that none of these dudes at the studio are going to believe it. Just like, female hysteria. Yeah. And so like I see what they wanted to do with it, but I think it kind of just takes focus away from the story at hand.
Yeah.
And that's really my only gripe with it.
Yeah.
Is that adding in this C plot when we've already got like a couple other story threads going detracts from a lot of the building tension.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very similar to that. You could have just taken that storyline away. The film would have been a little bit more coherent, in my opinion.
Yeah. It would have flowed better, I think.
Right. And I do think that, again, with the editing of it all, there are moments in it where it was edited really well, like that scene in which she's going back into her car, and then she sees, or the serial killer sees some a few blue collar workers coming outside of a truck or outside of a port, and he kind of backs away from her, which was that scene in particular was like the standout scene.
Yeah, no,
in the entire film.
That scene with him and her like on a date. And it starts off like, ooh, yeah, this is the guy from the dating show. He won, and he's very charming. But then, like, she makes like a quick, just like a minor little joke at him, when we see his entire demeanor change, and the entire rest of that scene, from like them at the restaurant to them going out to the parking lot, just like the entire thing is just wrapped in this bubbling kind of tension coming to the surface. I love the small moment where he's like, I guess we should get a couple more drinks, and like she makes eye contact with the waitress, and she just very subtly is like, and the waitress is like, oh no, we're closing up, sorry. That's just like, so good. I really love that.
Yeah. But there was one particular scene where I was like, okay, this serial killer, we're not working with the best serial killer here, because the girl that he tried to kill on that trip wakes up, gets up.
Oh, that's the runaway?
Yes.
Yeah, who we cut back to at the end. Yeah.
Yes. She gets up. And instead of, proceeding to kill her, he's just completely fine with the fact that he's an ineffective killer, and just lets him stay in the car, goes to the gas station. I'm like, all right, this killer could be a little... They're not sending our bride. They're brightest. the serial killer, industrial complex, they're not sending their brightest,
He is a terrible, disgusting monster, but I do like how that sequence plays out, because it is very apparent that something terrible happened in the night, and she was able to wake up, and he's like sobbing next to him, and she sees that as an opportunity to like, this is probably my only way out of this, and like talks very like calmly, is like, hey, what's wrong, buddy? Are you all right? And just like gets on his side so she can have an opportunity to escape. I loved that entire sequence, just like she's just in the car constantly darting her eyes to like people in other cars who are barely looking in her direction. It's such a tension-filled moment, as there are many in the movie.
Yeah, and I think that's it for us.
Do we want to wrap up our thoughts?
All right, so overall,
on this?
Yeah, let's wrap up our thoughts,
because it is a fairly like straightforward movie. It's very breezy. Again, it's like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's a very straightforward story of, we have the dating show, we have his previous crimes and victims, and we are constantly jumping back and forth with some minor segues into someone who inexplicably knows of his crimes and is also deciding, I'm going to go see this live taping of a dating show.
Yeah. So overall, Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, I think it was pretty good.
It's very good.
Issues with it, yeah. The editing could be better. The 3 storylines that weren't really connected were kind of an issue for me. It felt very sort of like, oh my god, right place, right time. The person I saw at this dating show killed my sister or my friend, and now I got to talk to the police department, and even though they're ineffective, and I got to scorn them for most of the movie. It felt very out of place. That particular storyline felt out of place. But having said all that, it was suspenseful. When Pete Holmes was just talking to Anna Kendrick at the bar, that was also pretty suspenseful. I'm not gonna lie. That was suspenseful.
It kind of was, because he tries to make a move on her, and she's like, "Oh, that's
funny.
don't do that.
You're funny.
You're doing your Anna Kendrick impression.
I'll play the cup song for you."
I love the look on his face. There's like,
yeah,
big,
like it was Jerry Seinfeld eating a Pop-Tart.
Big where's my hug energy coming from Pete Holmes in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, so Anna Kendrick, she did pretty well. And it's good to see
very
that
well,
she
yeah.
donated all of her profits from the movie to Rain. That's pretty good as
I
well.
love that. That's very nice.
That's good. But those are my thoughts on it. How about yours?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very solid true crime thriller. Anna Kendrick's performance is great. Her direction, I think, is really stellar. It's an engaging story. I think it just needs to, it could be cleaned up a little, just streamline it to make it more cohesive, but it feels very small potatoes, kind of that issue, because I think, again, a very good thriller, very good crime thriller, a terrific directorial debut for Anna Kendrick. It's on Netflix, so you have no excuse not to watch it.
Yeah, if you watch Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, that fake fight, you have enough time to watch this movie.
If you watched 5 hours of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, you shouldn't be allowed to leave the house.
Yeah.
You should not be allowed to make adult decisions anymore.
Yeah. So, coming from a guy who has a Lego set right behind the camera.
Shut up. Shut up. That was 1,400 pieces. Took me a whole weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's the Dune Ornithopter. Do you want me to run off camera and grab it?
Please do. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Anyways, guys, that's it for us. Those are our thoughts. Those are our thoughts on the review. We literally just reviewed it. Thank you guys so much. All right, the Anna Kendrick impression needs a little work.
Needs a little work.
It needs a little work, but there you can hear. There's an idea of Anna Kendrick, but she simply is not there.
There's a concept of an Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, some kind of extraction. All right, that's it for us.
That's definitely it
good
for
movie.
us.
Some mid issues with it, but overall good movie.
Yeah.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.